Monsignor. I'm going to need all the power of the wind and the fire and the spirit to make sure this goes well, so we'll see. Also, before I get going, we had some staticky issues with the last Mass. I'm going to do a quick mic check and verses. Ready? Perfect. Okay. And for those of you who are worried, I actually wrote a speech. It's not just one page. It says improvise here. That's on page 3. So we'll see that one. But seriously, thank you so much for being here to hear this reflection. Whenever I'm invited to reflect on anything, I always seem to think about all the blessings in my life. And looking out in this crowd, I can already see a few right now, starting with my mom right here in the second row. I mean, love you, Mom. She came across the country last semester, and it's been amazing to have her here on this coast. It's been a huge support, so thank you. Looking around to see people who make Foundry such an amazing place to come back home to, a place I can unpack my heart, or I know y'all are never going to let me down, and I appreciate all of that. And while I could talk for hours about my incredible family, friends, gifts, experiences, I want to talk about another kind of blessing that can easily be forgotten, but it's played an important role in my life. And that's the freedom and the ability to choose. So first, I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for choosing to be here tonight. For some of you, it may be your first time in Foundry Chapel, and on behalf of everyone here, I say, welcome. Others may be wondering if it's your last time, wondering if you're ever going to come back after you walk across the stage next week for graduation. Some of you may be preparing for a journey abroad next semester. Some of you may have just gotten back from it. But no matter where you are on each of your individual journeys, the important part is that you're all here, together, right now. You're present. And I am so grateful for that. And I'm incredibly humbled by the opportunity to share a few words with you all. Or for those that actually know me, it's going to be more than a few. I can guarantee that. Because the truth is, I never expected this. And that isn't to say that I arrived at USD with no expectations either. I absolutely had some. I would play football for 4 years and graduate with an engineering degree. It's funny now, yes. Everything else would just be an added bonus. However, it wasn't long before I started to feel the toll that football was taking on me. I listened to both my body and my mind in understanding that not only was it probably not the best thing for my physical health, you're welcome, Mom, but honestly, there was a lot much more to college that I wanted to experience. So I stopped and decided to focus on engineering. Well, after 3 semesters of writing poems in my math notebooks, and always favoring that lone English course over the 4 engineering ones, I stopped that too. There's a common phrase that goes, if you say yes to one thing, you say no to another. As I discovered, it absolutely works the other way around. Already into my sophomore year, I'd said no to the 2 things that I expected to define my entire USD experience. And suddenly, I had a lot of room to say yes. So I did. I followed that poem scribbling ambition and turned that into a full-fledged English major. Jumped into weekend adventures, which included a near-death experience at Sunset Cliffs, which Greg Hopkins thankfully saved me from. So Greg, if you're here, thank you, sir. I threw the nerves out the window and started performing at open mics with my groups of flannels. That was fun. I cried at plays on campus, attended all those incredible speakers that we're always bringing around. I pretty much immersed myself in anything that didn't have to do with practices, team meetings, or labs. That is until I was asked one day if I'd ever considered reading at Founders Chapel on Sunday power of persistence and personal imitation, maybe give it a second thought. Well, I'm a man. And leadership seems reasonable. And frankly, I was curious about that uncomfortable yet cool, strange, uplifting feeling I found at Founders. So again, without any real reason to say no, I went for it. And while there's a lot that I learned from that weekend retreat, such as that yes, I'm still afraid of heights, and retreat food is actually super bomb. The main thing that resonated with me was the idea of being present. With no phones, no homework, no known agenda. Us 30 guys, most of whom did not know each other and came from different walks of USD life, were left in the mountains at the top. And be open, and be present. I recall the first night in our little small group. MLC was our leader on the couch. Next to him, we had people like Michael Shepard, Troy Williams, Rio, Zach Jagielski, Jeff Bush. All guys that to this day I am really close to. But at the time, I didn't really know at all. And yet, I felt really comfortable with them almost immediately. And as I thought about it, I realized it's because I knew they'd listen. It is amazing the kinds of leaps and bounds that can be accomplished in conversations when there's a feeling of mutual respect and attention. And that weekend allowed me to see all of them. We discussed our relationships, our goals, our struggles, things that every human being has in common because, well, they're human. We share our stories. And more importantly, we listened to each other share each other's stories and heard what everyone had to say, offering support to lighten each other's burdens and share each other's struggles. There's a kind of love and support that builds strong bonds. And naturally, we want them to continue when we return to USD. But rather than choose to plan meetings and get-togethers and reunions to keep it going, those friendships persisted in an unexpected, yet organic and beautiful way. You see, these people who I didn't know at all the week before, suddenly were popping up all over campus. And I was invited into their individual communities and their individual friend groups, branching out to areas like Casa, and Greek life, and Fuso, and Souls, and Pride, where these guys were all very involved, and where I suddenly felt really welcome. All because they were present to me for 3 days. And by creating that bond with one of them and being welcomed into one of their lives, I was invited to create bonds with their friends and experience their way of living. I saw the chain reaction of how a friendship with one quickly could turn into 20, maybe even 200. Which brings me back to here, to this incredible space. Down the shop, where I've learned that the hand-holding during the Our Father and the hugging after Mass is not because everyone here knows everyone, but because everyone here is open to knowing everyone, and is open to inviting and welcoming each other into their lives. I've been fortunate enough to find myself involved in many different walks of USD life. And yet, I can look out in the crowd right now and see people from all of those different involvements right here. You're all individually present to your close friends, and your communities, and your families. And you bring all of that with you to be present here, to share that unique flavor with each other, to make one big community, one big family, one big body, one big spirit, like we heard in the readings. And that makes the possibilities in this room, well, infinite. And I know this because I've experienced it. And I know this because I can look out and see people who have showed it to me and taught it to me, who have left this school 2-3 years prior, shout out to the alumni, but who come back to experience it together. Because in spite of having no idea this place existed 3 years ago, I can safely say that it continues to exceed any expectations I walk in with when I come to gather here with all of you. All because I chose to say yes and read them one time. It's funny how many people will ask me, wow, Kevin, don't you wish you would have gotten involved in UM sooner? Don't you wish you would have gone on Frio or lived in Maher? And the honest answer is no, I don't. Because while this community has shown me a lot, such as how important it is to be present to the people around me, and to their needs, and to their desires, I've also learned that being present is a two-way street. And in the same way that you always hear that you must love yourself before you can love others, I'm a testament to the fact that you have to be present to yourself before you can really be present to others. Whether it's engineering, English, or whatever it is in your life, by saying no to those things in your life that are boring, monotonous, unfulfilling, you can make room to say yes and be spontaneous and be open to paths that may or may not take a detour from what you have in your own mind. As I alluded to in the beginning, this path, the one that brought me to this altar, speaking in front of all of you tonight, is a huge detour. And I am so grateful that I chose it to cry. Sorry. And I'm so grateful that I chose it. But even it hasn't always been clear. Heck, I actually wrote 3 different versions of this talk, all with 3 different takeaways. And I know what you're thinking. That dude is confused and needs to get his stuff together. And you are absolutely right about that. But I think the point is that you can't write your whole story in one day, from beginning to middle to end. You have to live it out. And you do this by being present, by listening, by embracing the unexpected. Have your passions, have your ambitions, have your dreams. Those are all beautiful things that we all need. But stay present to the opportunities that God places right in front of you. And have the courage to say yes to those things once in a while. Because if you let yourself make that choice, it can exceed even your loftiest expectations and surpass your wildest dreams.